Hello there! I'm Squire Callahan Ridgeborn, almost a Battlemaster, always a wizard, and tonight I'm joined by a special guest, Battlemaster Cid, almost a Battle Knight from Neverwinter. Cid, welcome to the show.
Happy to be on here, Callahan. Love the program, been a fan of it for a bit.
I'm so excited to have you come on the show. For anyone who doesn't know, Sid's been watching some of the other interviews, and actually I met Cid through he left a comment for us, and I found his comment and reached out to him, and now he's on. So this is awesome. Cid, how did you get started in Amtgard?
Hilariously enough, I had two starting points. If you look at my org, I think says I have like sign-ins dating back to like 2014. Came out for about maybe like 3 to 6-ish months, and that came to a very abrupt halt from a very, very shoddily made great weapon straight to the head. 12-6'd me, knocked me out, dragged all to the ground, and from there I kind of said, you know what? I'm going to take some time off from this. Maybe I'll come around to it. Skip about 4 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 2018-ish, maybe, close enough. And then my knight, or I guess the person who would become my knight, Sir Cookie Monster, and a bunch of my friends down there in Neverwinter were like, hey, you want to come to an event? I'm like, sure, why not? Well, sure enough, I went to the event, had a good time, got crash course through playing a class on the drive up. So it was like 4 hours in that car learning how to play Bard and figure out schools and spell lists and immunities, all that stuff. Apparently, sure enough, here we are, almost 9-ish years later.
So your first outing was at a Kingdom event?
My very first event was the Knighting of Sir Kelbo. Wonderful gentleman. May he rest in peace.
To
Amazing
throw a
people.
new player into the fire. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, Cid, most of my audience is here in the Rising Winds. We obviously don't know you. To get to know you a little better, can you tell me a fun fact about yourself?
Fun. Actually, some of your guys do know me. I was up there at Battlecry last year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. Came up. I was up there with my partner. We were playing a healer bard combo, and we had a good time. Loved playing with a lot of your guys. It was real good. I guess a fun fact. As of right now, I am the only person in the Kingdom of Neverwinter who currently has a Battlemaster that is only with 2 Paragons. I'm the only one who has that like that.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well,
normally we do it with, it's normally either 3 Paragons and that's it. Now, mind you, there could be one of the older folks, when they were given theirs, or when they got theirs, they had it for less, but as of right now, the next generation, I am the only one with 2.
Okay. So how did you earn your Battlemaster then? Was that through tournament play? Did you do coaching? How did you get that?
So I got mine actually, hilariously enough, through Rex from outside the kingdom. For the past 3-ish years, I've made it a point to travel a lot. Haj does something very similar, and that man tears it up where he goes. So I went to Spring War for 2 straight years. Most of these people didn't know who I was. Relative know about it. According to them, I tore it up. I did amazing. We did 2 shatter battles where it was a 100 life pool, and I think we only lost 15 lives to attrition.
That is some serious healing chops there.
I was told I did very well. I ended up getting asked to join a company not too long after. Got picked up, and here we are. My own kingdom, the problem ended up being is that in my own kingdom, I got injured twice over the course of about 3 years. I broke my sword hand, so I was off the field for about a year because I'd broken my thumb and the phalanx, so it's the area that holds the thumb to the hand. And then right after I got fixed up from that, I got into a car accident coming back from an event, which herniated 2 of my discs, one in my lower back and then one in my neck. So I was out for another 6-ish months.
Okay. Yeah, that would do it. On a funner note, what fighting company are you with?
I'm with the Ascendants. Most of them are out of the CK. We do have a few in Neverwinter, some out west. We do have an Acolyte actually out of the Rising Winds right now, actually, Dredge Gravehand. I don't know exactly what part they're at, though. The interesting part was that how I got my Battlemaster, a lot of it isn't just ability at the casting position. I'm a bit of a battlefield tactician. I lead teams, so we'll coordinate people into squads, get people on objective, get them on task, and get them moving. I've led guys or teams up to about 100 people, probably a little bit more than that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep, I've done that consistent. I did it at Battlecry last year. I did it at Spring War the 3 years that I've been. So, and Neverwinter, I've been doing it since I started.
Okay. Follow up on that, actually. How do you get people to listen to you? Like, it's difficult to get people to buy into a plan, I found.
Realistically speaking, you're not going to. It's not possible to have everyone listen to you. But the idea here is that you put situations and you kind of put places for these folks to kind of fall into where they're going to do their job regardless of the fact. So for instance, if you have just like a monk or barbarian that's just going to do their thing, they're going to do their thing regardless of the fact if you tell them. What you do is then you put them in a situation where that might be advantageous for them. We have guys down here, it's like, I just want to flank. It's like, say less, I've got you. Teleport them along the sides, like, hey, wait for me to send this guy, and you guys take the flanks at the same time. They're going to have to react to one of you, and whoever doesn't get reacted to is going to take the entire line by themselves. So it's very much like you can put it in their court and say, hey, do you want help with doing your job? And you know what your job is. Most of these people, any self-respecting battle gamer is going to say, yeah, I know that I've got to, be ready to suppress out a caster if I need to, or be ready to hit a key target in the arm with a pole. The idea here is you want to enable them and make them feel good, put the ball in their court, and then inevitably that's about as close to listening to you as you need, realistically.
So just trying to have them do what they already were going to do in the best placement for you.
Exactly. And then for those who will listen to you, you coordinate those folks to be your logistics teams, your sergeants or lieutenants, or however you want to use the term. So what we'll do is that I'll have one caster per brick of individuals. So brick beating like your usual group of armored player, pole, caster. If you have a range guy in that formation as well, you're good. And you keep one person to relay commands down the line. And that way, every person down the line knows exactly what's going on. Everyone's together-ish on the plan, and only one person, realistically speaking, needs to be completely in on it, which is the backline guy, screaming out, push forward, hey, let's go this way. It makes it a lot easier, and it doesn't make it feel like you're being bossy.
Yeah, that makes good sense. What's your favorite kind of battle game?
I am a lover of sieges. I adore good long games that let you kind of like flex. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of and most people would assume that means I love like shatter battles or anything like that. The problem is that with the way that V8 kind of plays out, shatter battles are just not ideal. The concept of attrition just never kicks in, and if you have two solid healers on either side, that game is never ending.
Yeah.
Like they'll be dragged off the field, dehydrated and tired, but that game will not end for hours. So I would say Siege is probably my favorite.
Okay. What kind of win conditions are you, when you say a siege game, can you elaborate on that? Like, how makes a siege game different from a shatter battle besides just the life count pool?
So siege games, at least the way we tend to run them down here is that there is some level of secondary objective in order to create a second opening. So like, for instance, if it's one long wall that runs completely down the field or several walls, you have multiple openings. So it's like, okay, Game Runner will say, hey, you guys have this giant sack of potatoes. You have to get to said area and say breaking 1, breaking 2, whatever, to breaking 15. And that breaks the door down. Then it's this progression of a game actually having a level of escalation in both tension and objectives. So it's like, okay, hey, first you break down the doors. Then you have to take the command posts that lie on opposite sides of the guardhouses to open the main gate. Then once you take the main gate, then you have to take the square, which is the main win condition. So I guess to properly say it is that a siege tends to be a game, or at least the ones that I enjoy playing, are games with a progressive slant to how their objectives play out. So sure. It'll go from deliver an object payload style, then capture points, maybe to a King of the Hill-ish styled game, maybe capture the flag, maybe assassination. But it's that progression that I feel like kind of really sells that game mode on me.
Okay. So a multi-phase battle game with asymmetric goals then.
Yeah.
Those are excellent games. I'm with you there. What's your favorite class to play?
So I love utility. So Wizard has been one that while I'm not entirely sold on the mentality for it, because I've been playing healer for so long, and that transition for me was a bit rough. Wizard, definitely up there. Healer, absolutely adore it. Bard has a place in my heart, for my first Paragon, first class I ever played. I've been falling in love with Paladin a lot. I've really been enjoying that class. So it varies. I guess it waxes and wanes. I've been kind of like messing around a little bit more. I just got myself a suit of armor, so I've been running around in plate with both Pally and Anti-P. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's your go-to equipment set then? What, like, if you have the field open to you, any melee, what's your go-to weapon set?
So hilariously, up until I got the armor and started actually fighting, I didn't use a weapon. I normally would just go out. If I was on healer or bard, I would just rock a medium shield. Oh, no dagger, no nothing. So just kind of play the Captain America style, lead from the front, help out where I can, give utility, just with a medium shield. As of recently, I've really tended to favor min reds, so minimum length great weapons, poles, just because I kind of enjoy being an anchor for a team, being able to like lock down a site and actually have the range to kind of force pressure on an opposing side.
Okay. Makes good sense. So let's talk about battle gaming kind of generally nebulously. Are you the kind of player that, like, I don't know how they do it down in Neverwinter. Here in the Rising Winds, they almost always publish the games for our Kingdom events a couple of weeks in advance. I sit there and I spend a couple hours poring over them. Do they do that down in Neverwinter? Is that something you're doing?
So, hilariously enough, for the past about 2-ish years, 2.5-ish years, I've been either champion or I've been Warcrat. And I make it a point to publish, I make it a point to publish games at least a week in advance. So I'll go over it, I'll explain mechanics, if there's bespoke mechanics to an event, so meaning like a mechanic that's returning or that kind of repeats throughout an entire event. I'll explain it about 2 weeks before, then make sure that all games are posted at least 3-ish to 5-ish days before the event actually starts. But
I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate that. No,
there's some nerd down there in Florida that's just like loving every time you post those, because I know I sit around on pins and needles waiting for the battle games, and even on the days I'm not going to be there, I still like to read through the games and think about what I would do in those scenarios, because that's just how I get through my workday sometimes. So if you weren't the champion and someone posted that, how would you go about evaluating the battle game and making your plan?
Interestingly enough, I can kind of go through the process of how I do it. First things first, we look at the game, we look at the game type. Sometimes, at least down here, at least the way I've trained most of my smiths, and the ones who we've all kind of like conglomerated and worked together, we traditionally kind of have like a game type written out. So it'll say game type asset collection or game type payload. So you look at the game mode, you look at the map, you see if there's any weird eccentricities that show up. So like a flaming pit in the center of the map, poisonous bog of gas, anything that would be a weird battle or like a weird situation that you might have to play around, whether it be deep water, etc. So you look at those first, you look at the map, and then you go through the rules and give it a once read over. And think, okay, what would I want to play in this game mode? Okay, go over it again, read it a second or third time, and then say, what would I expect the opposing force to run at this map? Well, like, for instance, you'll see with, like, bridge battles or, like, maps with any level of, like, good choke points where you could get funneled into, expect a lot of, like, range fire to come down there, so they'll probably maybe draft up a good number of archers, maybe a good number of scouts to keep ready for dispels if needed. So it's, like, trying to keep in mind and try to, like, figure out, okay, what would I enjoy playing in a situation? Then go over it again and say, what would someone who really, really wants to ruin my day also play in this situation in order to make sure that my team couldn't get their primary objectives done. Mm-hmm. So after I've gone through that, I've looked through the game mode, I've looked through every possible thing that could be like weird or something that could be abusable or something that could be a problem. We go over it and then we think about on situations of how we can use these special situations to go to our advantage, because now we understand what we would want to play, ideally, what the opposing team is going to play, and then what I'm going to have to play in order to make sure that the opposing team doesn't rock me in that situation. So, like, for instance, okay, Poison Bog. Does that mean, per se, that it is, if you have an immunity to death, you're good through it? Okay, so that means maybe we have some setups with Paladins getting through that point. Maybe it's an issue of giving pro-death for any number of means. If it's a Flaming Pit, same idea. You take an anti-P, you send them through. Hopefully that they explain clearly that, you know, your armor and your equipment also survive that journey. But it's just one of those things that you're going to need to keep in mind. But, and I guess too long didn't read situation is, what's the idealized? What are you expecting to come up against? How do you fight to counter it? Special rules and stuff that you might need to take into consideration for your battle plan. And that's just before you get onto the field.
Once you get onto the field, how do you go about adjusting your plans on the fly to go? Because they always have something unexpected, right? No plan survives first contact. So how do you adjust on the fly?
The Colin Powell quote gets me every time. But yeah, it depends. So like it'll vary on what guys are out in the pool because down in Neverwinter we actually do draft full teams. So you will sit there for like maybe 10, 15 minutes and they'll do two, pick one. So where one person picks two players, they'll step forward. Opposing captain picks one. So it'll be something that you first need to see. Okay, well, what's my talent pool looking like? Do I have sword knights on the field? Do I have battle knights on the field? Do I have a battlemaster on the field? Is that person there with that bow? Are they on their game? You know, are they somebody who I know is consistent in their play, or is it someone who plays a little streaky? You know, maybe they'll have a really good game every now or once and again. Maybe they're kind of playing through a slump right now. Maybe they're coming off an injury. It's one of those things where I'll kind of like think about it. It's like, okay, what's my talent pool? What weird nonsense did the Reeves pull on me this time? Oh, you know, said flaming pit doesn't stop for anti-paladin. You just go straight through and you die. No questions asked. All right, so that means now I need to figure it out. Is there some weird properties I've got to deal with like boundaries? Is it like hard boundary where like if somebody gets shoved into it, they just fall off a cliff and die? Like these kinds of things will happen. So it's like think on the fly, see what's there, and evaluate to what do you think you can efficiently use to deal with the problem. So like for instance, if my problem is that I can't go through that fire pit, maybe I might want to draft a few more casters and maybe some heavy armor in order to maybe come up with some feint plays. So like have armor push up on one side while my casters get ready with a nice little teleport play on the other. So the opposing team now has to like deal with two axes of attack at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where those strategies will just have to come once you know your plan or your talent pool, knowing what the map looks like, knowing what the Reeves are planning, and then just conditions of the field. Sometimes maybe heat could be a problem. Weather is always an issue. Terrain, like the event where Battlecry was, I had no idea. Simply put, how crazy that map would be with the lanes and forest play. Because you had people like jumping out of the trees, you had all sorts of crazy stuff when I was up there last year.
The thing that sounded really interesting in what you were just talking about that I really want to follow up on is that drafting mechanic. Here in the Rising Winds, we'll do that a lot for like park or even like Grand Duchy events. But for our major games at the Kingdom Fields and stuff, usually it's just the Reeves splitting people up. They'll say like, hey, make a party of 4 or 5 people. And then they're just numerically splitting parties to make the teams go faster. Doing that drafting sounds like it gives opportunity for really unbalanced battle games. Has that been something you've experienced a lot?
Yes. So what'll happen is that if a game is unbalanced, we'll do one of two things. We will just play it out. It is a bit of a trial by fire, but it lets some of our guys who are really getting it and really learning the skill to really shine. In some situations, we'll play a second round. We'll hot balance if we need to, just because it's not fair if a new guy who just started the game wants to get in there and kind of like dip their toe in the water, so to speak, and then just gets trounced.
Right.
What we'll do is that in some situations, either myself or some of the other guys who are like the battle masters, high orders of battle guys, will stand there and kind of like tell you like, hey, you maybe want to get some armor. I'm not going to tell you what. If you want my help, I will help you.
Sure.
But, it's to help grow your skill in it. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, it sometimes happens where some of our games are absolute stomps. But most times, if it's going to be like that, there was not much that a person could do in the first place because maybe the 2 sword knights decided they wanted to play together this time. Or the belt line of like 4 or 5 battle masters wanted to go in there all together and run roughshot. Mind you, that doesn't happen often, because the way we tend to draft it tends to kind of even out a little bit. Weirdly enough, the thing that will unbalance battle games a lot down here are the tactician guys. There's about 3 or 4 of us. One of the really big ones that he's up and coming right now is Rook. It's by Rook with a K. He's out of Shifting Tides. Kid's got a good head for drafting, understands tactics well enough. Kid knows his stuff.
Cool.
And it's one of those things that you see, like these up and coming guys, they'll kind of unassumingly draft. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just having a good time here to have a good time. And then when the game actually starts, it's all business. They know what to do. They know what to give the people who know what they're doing orders, and just like I said, delegating out lieutenants and sergeants to do their job. And it's when you see guys like that, it's when those games get really unbalanced. Because though it's a team who has a plan against a team who doesn't.
Right.
And then that's where it tends to get really nasty.
So you guys are just taking volunteers to be team captains then, or how are those selected?
It'll depend. Sometimes we will have volunteers. Sometimes we will just volunteer. Lord knows I've had my fair share of being thrown up to the front and being forced to do it over the years.
Okay. And
I've had to pick against...
The team captain really is the team captain then. They get to sort of... Okay. I really like that.
Yep.
Okay. Can
it
you walk me through how you do some of your drafting?
It'll depend. So let's assume that this is just like a standard node capture game.
Sure.
One thing you first want to take a look at is what is it that first off, what are my conditions? Down in Florida, it's real hot, it's real humid, and our April event and our August event tend to be really rough. Like out there last weekend, it was 93 degrees, no cloud cover. It was just really, really rough. So armor was kind of hard to come by.
Right.
So it's one of those things like, okay, what's going to be in a premium right now? The plate, he might have plate, but how long is he going to be able to stand up there? How long is he going to actually be able to keep that up? It's like, okay, well, now we understand what our ground conditions look like. Well, what's our battlefield conditions look like? What are we looking at? Do we have walls? Do we have archer towers? Do we have choke points to kind of send the enemy team down? Okay, now we understand that. Now we look at our talent pool. We have armor, sure. Well, a lot of times, at least when I'm running games, we'll tell people, hey, armor, step forward first. We'll have them rate or be rated right there, so everyone knows exactly how much armor a player may have. And then we'll separate them out. They'll first get picked up. You with him, whatever, and all those people will get thrown out. Then we'll go casters. Casters will step forward. Normally, let's assume I picked up maybe Paladin, maybe a Warrior. So one of my favorite comps right now that we've been running is Guardian Paladin with Juggernaut Warrior.
Okay.
That way you're kind of having a pretty decent armored column with the Phoenix tiers. Mind you can compensate this with just Phoenix tiers on a regular Warrior or anyone else for that matter. So you have them working in unison, but we'll get to that part in a bit. So if I've got my linchpin of my comp, whether it be the armor or whatever, or whichever organizational part, we're going to go through, we're going to build that linchpin around whether it's going to be I want to go caster heavy. We get that linchpin and then we just start building out. If I'm going caster heavy, I need to have some front line to keep them there. They need to have a means to make sure that they're not just going to get run down, and to make sure that they've got proper protection from things like assassins, teleported players, etc., etc. So it's very much around the idea of building a core and then build outward. So either building for utility, building for team pushing, building for team fighting. So like for instance, drafting teams with much higher stick skill while maybe having to give up a little bit on that caster ability, because I can probably compensate with proper amounts of either strategy or casters of my own. So for instance, having just like a singular bard behind my decently well specced out or gummied up or golemed up warrior, anti-paladin, or paladin, or I guess anti-paladin, and then have them march down. With that bard's job is, hey, you see somebody trying to cast Dispel? Suppress them immediately. Hit them with a break con. They don't get to have a good time. And if you see brown sash with strips on it, run. Just get out of dodge, move. But yeah, the idea ends up being is find a proper area that we want to focus on, a proper like niche, and then just build out. I would say is the way that I tend to do it.
Okay, I like that. How do you personally pick what class you're going to play for a battle game?
Depends how I'm feeling. At Spring War, I was tired. I've been running games on the Thursday, and I was just kind of exhausted, and I just wanted to have a good time. So I just picked Assassin. I picked up 2 sticks, asked the nearest wizard to hand me Persistent Void Touched, and I was off to the races. I proceeded to I kid you not, I walked into a line of about 60 people, said I vanished from sight, and just walked behind them until they decided to push onto my team. Shifted to Shadow Step because of trickery, came out, and then proceeded to just take backs from an entire line. I think one of the games I ended up with like 30-something odd kills, give or take.
That's nothing to shake a stick at.
I mean, the funny part is that my stick skill is normally pretty terrible. But it was one of those things that, like, if it's just what I'm feeling. Sometimes I like enjoying playing Assassin. I've been really enjoying the Paladin, anti-Paladin life a little bit now because I have the armor. When the conditions are right, get out there, just grab a pole and just learn the tanking, or take to tanking. I would say right now, other than just, like, whimsy, and I guess what I was feeling on a whim, I've realized that, at least as a Battlemaster, I kind of only made my impression on people by, just being a tactician, playing from the back, being a solid caster, making sure that my team never had an issue. But I feel like I needed to round myself out, actually learn to play the front line, lead from the front, and kind of be a little bit more inspiring. I kind of got that actually from a good friend of mine down here. It goes by the name of Sir PJ, or Sir Pumpkin Jack. Gentleman, absolutely wonderful. Just radiates that idea of, like, knightly energy, and it was one of those things that I wanted to like emulate myself alongside my own knight. Sir Cookie Monster is an absolute beast, and when he's out there on the field, like, people feel better when he's out there with you. And it's it's one of those things I kind of wanted to be for my underbelts, and I guess the other people who are coming up in the game as well.
Okay, I want to circle back around, because a little bit ago when we were talking about your weapons, you mentioned that you played a lot of no dagger, no sword for both Bard and for Healer, just with that medium shield. This is a selfish question. Something I'm fairly well known for is going no weapon wizard. My favorite enchantment is Gift of Air. I just think it's the best enchantment ever. Can you tell me about playing no weapon Bard specifically? And then I also want to hear about no weapon Healer, because those are play styles that I'm interested in branching out towards.
So no weapon Bard. So traditionally, and I have a written guide on it for Bard, but it's a little bit antiquated because I believe it's from about a good 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
I split Bard into 3 archetypes, or 3 playstyles.
Sure.
You have Breacher Bard, which is your usual understanding, sword and board, combat caster, songs in hand, ready to make a hole and play off of that hole. So, like, for instance, you're kind of in a line fight, you're kind of playing a little bit off on a wing to, like, a tank or a pole, and your job is uneven that fight so your team can make a way in. So they're the best way to describe it is that they are your guys who kick the door in, so to speak, if we're going to kind of, like, take it to, like, ye olden fantasy SWAT team kind of, like, lingo.
They're breaking.
These are your guys who, they're making the wedge. They're opening the door up so your team can go in.
Okay.
The guys right behind them, these are your interesting guys. These are what we call midline. Midline Bard doesn't need the weapon. They're there to protect. They're there to make sure that your team is covered. Back in the day when I was running it, we had to worry about, FOD. It's a real big problem.
Yep.
So keep the greater release ready. And the weapon and combat caster are expensive. Those will eat into your points. It ate into your stuns. It ate into your greater releases. And it was one of those things that I felt like, you know what? I think I'm going to be a much better use for my team. Being able to scan, like, hey, I don't need to be worrying about swinging stick. My job is, can I keep an eye out for assassins? Can I keep an eye out for barbarians, especially really scary ones? Mm-hmm. Do I have to worry about a particularly nasty, like, armored column coming down on us? That play style of no weapon is as much a chain for yourself to keep you on task. Your job is not to go and get kills. Your job is not to make that hole for your or to make the hole for your team, but not to play off of it yourself. You are there to make sure that that column, your brick, your unit, is able to push through with as little impediment as humanly possible, and protecting your backline where they need it. So, making sure to make callouts for assassins, watching out for teleported players, keeping an eye out for archers, and one of those things that you'll see happen, especially with, like, healers that don't tend to pack a shield, is that you'll get down, get in front of them while they're trying to heal one of your allies. And that's the best part about that shield. It's being able to cover guys who may not be able to cover themselves and really, like, plug up holes in your team comp without being able to swing a stick. Mind you, that playstyle was kind of born out of necessity. My stick skill has never been all that great. So it was one of those things that I figured I might as well accentuate a playstyle that I feel like I could do. Really observant. I can keep an eye on people like very good, or at least fairly good, at making sure I can keep an eye on key targets and tracking them. So it's one of those things that I kind of adapted to a playstyle. Backline is just similar to midline, but their job is more along the lines of curse removal if they need to, battery if they need to, confidence and powers, restos, the usual suspects. Like that playstyle is almost kind of like a hybrid. It's healer without the heal. They've got your mens, they've got your GRs, they've got everything you need, and technically they're also there to deal with some backline issues. So like for instance, if like assassins try to get a little bit antsy on you and your healer may not have an ice ball, a shove is all you need. And I can pack quite a few of those in a list pretty cheaply.
Okay.
So it's just one of those things that both of those two play styles, for me at least, were built or kind of born out of necessity to kind of make it my own, because I wouldn't be able to make much of an impact otherwise.
Okay. Tell me about no weapon healer now.
It was kind of the same idea, though your job kind of flexes a little bit more. You can kind of breach a little bit more. You're packing ice balls, you're packing entangle, depending on the amount of shields on field. Maybe you have an abeyance. I'm not too sold on it, but the idea is somewhat the same. Your job is to be a medic. Your job is to run down to targets and, hey, I'm going to go save that guy. I'm going to go get to that group of people, and I'm going to try and make sure that that unit still maintains coherency, that they are still combat capable.
Right.
This is what I actually played at Battlecry last year. I would run through all the 3 lanes that the map would have, alongside or with either a battery bard behind me, trying to get guys back up, mend their armor. You guys seem to really love Lost a lot, so getting boys out of that and saving folks that very, very, very long walk back was something that I kind of needed to do, at least while we were up there. Yeah, midline no weapon healers, the same idea. Sometimes I pack the shield, sometimes I don't. It depends on what the archer game is looking like, because when you become a decent or well-recognized healer, every archer in that game field is going to come after you. You are the biggest target on that field. One thing that I've taught, at least some of the people that I've taught to play archer, is to leg players on purpose in order to draw healers out.
Yep.
Yeah, the Geneva Convention would shy against it, but thankfully Amtgard does not.
Amtgard does not recognize the Geneva Convention, and so war crimes may continue. Have you done anything with magic staffs yet?
Sadly not yet. Some of my company mates have. Some of them kind of really like them. I'm not entirely sold on it, but I don't have an issue with it.
It's free.
It's a free staff, and I don't use a weapon anyway. So yeah, I would suppose I probably would use one.
I recommend you pick one up, because I mean, I'm a wizard main. I play wizard, and a lot of times I'm not doing swords and stuff. So and you can still carry weapons. You just can't wield them at the same time. So you can start out with a staff, tank the first arrow, switch to your short sword, tank another arrow, switch to your other short sword. So I can theoretically block, 3 arrows before I have to mend anything. So that is very nice. I really wish that they hadn't ruined the staff shield combo, because that would have been just so much defense.
This wall is impregnable. There would be nothing that gets through it now other than destruction.
That would have been glorious. Just, you know what? I'm not worried about anything over here. I've got my shield. I got my staff. So much defense. It would have been great, but the game designers added those ore shields and ruined my entire plan. But yeah, magic staves are great. I really recommend you get one and try it out, because it's a different blocking style, but you can do some interesting things with it. And since it counts as an open hand, it gives you a lot of variability.
You can rattlesnake folks a lot too, because sometimes they won't realize it until they're already on top of you and you've already hit them either with a a stun, icy blast, etc. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I can see it. Now, keep in mind, most of the both of those playstyles for both healer and bard were before we had magic staves.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, it's a little bit antiquated, and since then I've kind of I've learned to I've come to the glorious Church of Stick, and I like using great weapons. They're fun, and it's just been one of those things that kind of I had an eye-opening experience messing around with an 8-foot weapon at a Kingdom event, and I kind of don't want to go back for a little bit, but I probably will, and I probably will pick up a magic stave. I know some of my friends at Park have them, and they have them out to loan, so I might give that a shot.
Okay, cool. Back to our scheduled questions, getting out of this rabbit trail. The rabbit trails are the fun part, so that's always great. But you mentioned earlier that you're doing a lot of cornerstone building around Guardian, Paladin, Juggernaut, Warrior. How are you building that teamwork out, and what does that look like? Can you give me some examples of that?
So what do you mean? Like, is it, how do I kind of get the team on task, or what exactly is the...
My written out question is, how can players better utilize teamwork?
Oh, okay. Perfect. Yes. So the easy way to do this is, and this is something that with a lot of the younger generation folks that I've been playing with, we kind of explain that each class has a job, and each class can kind of do certain jobs better than others.
Certainly.
Yeah. So we kind of separate them out into those jobs. So like, for instance, Paladin, Anti-Paladin, Warrior, or what we would call the Anchor. These are the guys who are holding your site down. These are the people that you want kind of making sure that space is held. Then you have, something called a wing. So your permutation of either wingman or wingwoman. Call them wings for unisex. This is the idea of the pole that kind of works alongside of them. Your secondary player who is there to keep and watch your back. A wing can technically also be a caster. It's so long as a person who works in conjunction with your anchor to make sure that they have an easier time of being able to hold space or take space.
Okay.
Then we have flankers and lurkers. Same idea. These are your guys who understand, hey, my team is engaging. My job is to wait around that side, wait for them until their backs are turned just enough, and then go in and force them to now have to react to my actions.
Okay.
And then you have your range damage. That could be anything from your spell ball wizards, your arrows, thrown weapons, javelins, etc., etc. The idea here is to make a very long story very, very short, is that we kind of make sure that everybody understands that there are jobs that we can all do, and that what that job entails. If me and my gang understand, hey, I'm going to take anchor, I need one of you as a wing. I need one of you on lurker duty. I need one of you on support duty to make sure if I get heat weaponed or if I catch a stun for anything, or if I'm about to catch a dispel, watch my back.
Okay.
And it's kind of giving them not necessarily like large, complex like sets of orders, but it's like simple things. Hey, if this, let's react with this. To use a bit of a video game example, I don't know if you know anything about the Final Fantasy games.
I do not.
One of them, great series, big fan of it. One of them, 12 in particular, has what's called the Gambit system. And what it is like it's a series of like, ostensibly, if you know anything about coding, it's the same idea. It's a bunch of if-then statements which your party members will react with. So it's the same idea. Hey, if you see this, let's react with this. And it's doing that with each member of the team to make sure that each role is satiated and each role is fulfilled. That way everyone kind of understands. Well, another thing that we were doing at this past mid-reign was teaching teams how to understand bodyguard duty. So we would have 2 members with a shield, 1 person with just a single short, with an entire line of people charging at them. The idea wasn't for them to survive it long, but for them to understand how to work in conjunction with other members of your team.
Okay.
Excuse me. But it's one of those things that you'll sit there and like slowly start to understand. It's like, oh, this isn't just like a silly little ditch game. By the way, credit to Skippy from Tides who came up with this. But the idea ends up being is that it's an exercise of making sure that players understand just how far we need to back up and that we're backing up together. So like backing up to the left or backing up to the right and not just splitting off. Because getting outside of or being outside of where you're getting covered from your teammates is a very easy way to get picked off and killed.
Right.
So it's understanding that you can do this on both the defense when you're backing up and on offense when you're going in. So, like, for instance, one of the concepts that I've been preaching in a lot of my classes is the idea of, like, establishing security. So establishing security means that a team pushes into the site, so whether it be a node or whatever area that they're trying to push into, and take just a little bit more space. That space gives their objective runners time to get into site, do what they need to do. So whether that be handle a capture point, state the charge incantation however X many times in order to take the objective, or just to give them enough leverage to not be an easy target for a pull that counterattack is going to have. It also gives that team the forward facing part of that team, so your anchor and your wings, a little bit of space to back up into. So they're not just running in to the site or running out of sight and losing the point immediately upon the opposing team counterattacking. So it's one of those things that, like, understanding, hey, if you're playing anchor, your job is to take space and lose space gracefully. Don't go into a site thinking that you're just going to be able to hold that indefinitely. It's not going to happen. Right. If you're going to have to cede space, make sure that you're ceding space with as minimal losses and as efficiently as possible. So, like, for instance, you'll see a lot of folks when they route, they'll just run in all directions. They'll fall back completely and lose any level of coherency. And all that is free space that the opposing team now gets to take for free.
Yeah. Whereas if they move backwards more as a unit, they could hold a lot more of that.
Yep. And the other thing that you'll end up seeing is that, and this is the final little concept that I've been teaching, is the idea of keeping counts in your head. So I've been teaching this a lot with our casters. I've been doing it a lot with my own underbelts. It's understanding your death counts, knowing how long that a objective may take you to take comparatively to the death count of the opposing team. So if we understand that the death count is 45 seconds from base, it's way more advantageous to keep a player out of that fight not dead than it was to kill them. So the traditional adage of leg them and leave them, it's a solid strategy there. It's definitely doable. If the death count is light and it's 10 seconds, 30 seconds from death, now your strategy needs to change. One thing that me and the guys have kind of cooked up is that we will kill with purpose, is what we kind of called it. But the idea is that you're staggering the kills. You're staggering them out so that a lot of these teams, especially on like regular Kingdom fields, they're not going to stagger. They're not going to coordinate their pushes. They're going to come out of spawn, and they're going to run at you, and it's going to turn into a meat grinder. So you kill 2 guys, 3 guys remain. Cool. Those guys are going to go back. They're going to start their respawn count, and their teammates aren't going to wait for them.
No.
And there's never going to be a point where that team that unit ever returns to full combat effectiveness. And as a unit leader, and this is one thing that I credit Rook and a lot of the other guys have been doing, thanks to a lot of training under Sir Porkchop. It's one of the sword knights down there, is that he teaches them to kill with purpose. It's understand that when you are taking guys down and when you're trying to take objectives, do so understanding that how is this going to make taking your next objective either easier or harder. So it's one of those things that you coordinate your job, understand your objectives and space therein, and then understand death count. Because the same thing can also operate in defense. It's understanding that, hey, I may have lost a guy. Let's fall back a little bit. If I lose a guy, then I'm going to wait. I'll wait till I'm at proper combat effectiveness and then push in. Because I'd rather be able to push into a squad properly and well armed than trickle, get killed, stagger my respawns, and now create a problem now that my team has to effectively wait double the respawn count for everybody to come back, everyone to be ready, my guys to all re-enchant, and then go and try to take that objective again. It's not effective, it loses you a lot of time, and it loses you games often. So it's one of those things that I've been trying to teach, and I'm glad to say that a lot of people are picking it up. How do you get... Okay, so this is the good part. So, are you talking about the idea of on defense?
If I'm on defense, out of a stagger, the offensive team has successfully staggered us so that there's 10, 15 seconds between each guy coming back out of respawn. How do you reset effectively?
It depends on how the objective plays out. If it's an objective that can be taken within the time of a death count.
Mm-hmm.
So like ring the bell, capture the flag, you're kind of out of luck. At that point, once you've been put into that check, you really don't have many outs outside of another unit coming to help you.
Mm-hmm.
In a situation where that may not always be the case, and a rout or a light stagger or a stagger is recoverable, you have to wait. Play a little bit further back. Don't engage needlessly. Maybe try to get pop shots. Maybe try to get one of their guys out a little bit, but it's very much like you have to play defensively. You don't want to engage completely because you're not at full efficiency. You don't want to put yourself at a situation where you're going to get even more losses needlessly. So it's one of those things that's like, okay, control the bleeding, stop the bleeding, wait for my guys to come back. Don't engage them completely. Try to lure them out into a really bad advantageous position. A lot of really hungry teams, especially those who do get staggers down, will inherently overcommit. So force them back. All right, yeah, just fall back with your team. Try to get them to fall back into maybe one of your other units. We had a class that we taught on this, I think it was August of last year, where falling back tactically into your own team or forcing the opposing team to outstretch or overcommit to where the supply lines, and I mean by that is like their ability to get reinforcements back effectively, makes them, like, puts them at risk. It's a needless risk too. Yeah. Force them to overcommit, force them to bite. You can, what a lot of people do is that, and I've kind of seen some folks do it, is that they'll consolidate their units a little bit closer together. And mind you, since we don't have fought anymore, you don't have that issue of like that one-man wrecking crew that's just going to tear a whole room to shreds. So what they'll do is they'll play a little bit closer together, a little bit more consolidated. And as that unit or the opposing force tries to take that spot, they'll extend out and collapse on them. It's a really weird take on an old Zulu technique. If you've got any, like, or if any of the listeners here are fans of history, the Zulu used this kind of tactic to win themselves an empire. It's called the Horns of the Buffalo. So what they'll do is they'll have their primary line engage with the opposing side, and the horns, so to speak, your wings, extend out and then put pressure on the sides.
Right.
And that strategy, especially with, mind you, in our game it's a little bit different, that could take the form of assassin play, teleported armored players, arrows, etc. But it's that opening of a second axis or vector of attack that really, really can put a damper on an overextended team. And that team now is at a bigger issue now. Now, not only have you killed their guys, but they've got a longer walk back to base. And especially if they may not have a healer on them, if they don't have like a properly set up squad, they're now out of luck. You've now staggered their respawns, forced them to walk back even further. So that means they're going to have even more time that they're going to have to take to consolidate themselves back again. So you can stabilize your spiral, or stabilize the stagger that you were just put into, stagger them in turn, and then go back, take site, get the job done. Mind you, a lot of this is theoretical. It's really hard to execute on, but I've seen it happen. My guys do it all the time. I've seen it happen. I saw it at Battlecry last year when I was over there. It's not hard to apply. Just think about it. Just, kind of think it through, understand how to get the opposing team to bite. Some teams are smarter than others. They're not going to follow you in. So just be patient. If not, wait for your guys to come in and then try to take site again. There's plenty of ways to do it. But that is one way to stabilize yourself.
Okay. Do you think you're going to be at Battlecry again this year?
I'm hoping. Unfortunately, it lands, I believe, a week after my knighting.
Oof. Okay. Well, would love to have you if you can manage it. If you could design your perfect squad, what does your perfect squad look like?
The funny part about this question, honestly, if you just give me my home park with me, I think that is my guys.
Okay.
Shifting Tides has such an interesting battle gaming culture, and I guess a special piece of battle gaming culture here in Neverwinter, alongside, now our sister parks Falling Fire and Murk Bottom, where each of those individual parks fight really well together, and some of them have like slight differences. Falling Fire as a park tends to have a lot of really, really solid stick play, a lot of really, really good casters, but a lot of them tend to be really good solo operators. These are like your solo wizards with a single short, and they just hunt people down, and they're just monsters. These are battle knights and battle masters that they have over there, and they're just solid on their own. They don't need a squad, they don't need a unit, and they're incredible. Merc bottom, a lot of young kids, a lot of people with a lot of fire and like urge to prove themselves and a lot of grit.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got some people there who know their strategy stuff. So it's just interesting because between that and then seeing where Shifting Tides has been since when I started, strong unit play, everyone knows their job, everyone knows where they got to go, and we've got solid stick skill, solid caster skill. I would never, there is never not going to be a situation where I'm going to say that I would rather not have Tides at my back. My own company, I would also love to have. But unfortunately, I guess the Ascendants are cursed that we never get to fight together, because at Spring War we always get hot balanced around. They'll split us out and they'll put us wherever. But it happens. And there's not much we could really do about it.
Yeah, them's the breaks. Okay.
Them's the breaks.
So you've mentioned a couple of times that your stick game historically has been fairly weak. Can you tell me a bit about how you overcame that?
Who said anything about overcoming it? No, I joke. I wouldn't say that my stick skill is particularly amazing. I would still say it's still rather mediocre at best. For the past year, I've kind of made time to go out to fighters practices. Down here, we run what's called the Vice City Dojo. So the Vice City Dojo is a conglomeration of parks, all run, and it's like a series of lessons. We'll have trips where we'll go up and like have weekends where people will fight together. I think we've done one in Jacksonville. I believe we did one in Sarasota recently. We is also a large term. That's all Sir Pork Chop's doing. I just kind of along for the ride. But yeah, I've been attending fighters practice 2 times a week, sometimes. Okay. Maybe 1 to 2 times a week alongside my own park days, learning and progressively just putting my head through the wall. Hopefully, maybe there'll be a crack somewhere, because it's getting your butt kicked by a sword knight and a bunch of very high-leveled warrior players who all have a very strong understanding of their fighting style. And, you know, it's one of those things that I pick up a little bit, and I still don't feel like I'm there, and I probably will never get there, in all due honesty. But where I feel comfortable, and at least where I feel like I am not a detriment to my own team with a weapon in my hands, is where I want to get to.
All right, that's fair. So I know that you're getting knighted in August, but I still want to ask you some knight questions that I've got. So what do you think the difference between a battle knight and a battle master is?
It's an interesting question to ask. The battle master, and I guess this applies to any level of knighthood, is that the master is the skill-based portion. This is your person who's either extremely competent, a person who is absolutely phenomenal on field. They are a terror, they are a game changer, they are everything that you want out of a person who can take the field. And that is all I can say about Battle Master.
Okay.
It is your skill portion of this. Your Battle Knight is your service. That is your character. It is the person who gives back to his kingdom, the person who hosts classes, who teaches the next generation, who lets new people take that spotlight. And mind you, I will not speak about myself as a battle knight yet, because till I get that white belt, I'm still Battle Master Sid, and that's the way I hold myself. What I'll do is that in particular, plenty of these new guys who are up and coming 8th, 9th order of battle, I let them take the stage. I tell them, you have command. Where do you want me? Tell me where you want me. What do you want me to do? And I will do it to the best of my ability. Okay. So it's one of those things that, like, that battle knight is your person who is building your next generation, creating your next generation of commanders and generals and your next set of, like, paragons. All those people, like, that battle knight's job is to make sure that those people are taken care of and cared for, and that community is fostered for. Whereas a battle master is only there to state, I am the game changer. I am the big man on campus, and that is all I need to give you right now. Mind you, most of those guys will show they will indeed help their kingdoms out. They will indeed put back to service. They will indeed give back to what they got when they were going into it. I've never seen any Neverwinter Battle Knight or Battle Master do anything different. But It's just more of a personal way of looking at the actual position.
Okay. So, what advice would you give someone who is just starting out and wants to be a Battlemaster?
We talking like fresh new like player, or are we
Like, I've got a
talking like somebody who's just
7-year-old that
gonna?
wants to be a Battlemaster someday. What advice would you give my 7-year-old?
I mean, here's the easy answer then. Find what you love and play it. You're young. You've got plenty of time to learn this game. One of my apprentices is a 13-year-old druid player. Goes by the name of Hornet. Great kid, loves smithing, loves the game. And he gets worried because he sits there, he's like, how am I ever going to be as good as the other druids in our belt line? Because my whole belt line is filled with master druids, or I guess Paragon druids, Paragon healers. And he kind of sits there and he's like, how do I do this? How do I grow up in this situation? It's like, do it by play. Enjoy yourself. The path of battle is a long one for the most part, and it's one that you can have a lot of fun along the way. It's enjoy yourself, and you're having fun, you're going to do well, and as you're having fun and doing well, everything else tends to fall into place. If you want to get into the tactics portion, you want to become that battlefield commander, you want to be, you know, the big guy staring through maps and looking at over the battlefield like it's a game of StarCraft, you can do that too. But have fun, first and foremost. This is a game. And if you want to be a Battlemaster, the whole thing is have fun first, and then the rest of it just kind of falls into place as you go. You'll find your way through it, because I'm not here to tell you how to do it. I can't. I'm not you. You're not me. We have different styles of how we play this game. We have different mentalities of how this game ought to be played. And I can't. It wouldn't be fair to you as a player. And I guess in the case of your 7-year-old son, it wouldn't be fair to him because that's just straight up not a... It's not conducive for him not to find his own style. Because it means that he'll end up mimicking or aping what he sees, and he never truly learns at that point. And that's one thing that I've feared a lot, at least being like in the teaching portion of the game, is like, how much of this are they going to, you know, innovate on? And how much of this is just going to be regurgitated? This is the difference between like a person who listens and understands content and a person who learns content. And not only do they learn the content, but they espouse on it, they expand on it. And it's in that expansion is where you start getting those masterhoods. It's having fun with the content and like learning and figuring it out. It's like, oh, if I teach you this very cool like interaction between two spells, what do you do with it? Let them play in the playground.
Okay.
And let them, you know, that flexing and them stretching not only their mental muscles, but their gameplay muscles and their tactical muscles is how they'll end up getting there. But it has to be on them.
Okay. What advice would you give to someone that's at that, you know, between 7 and 10 orders of battle and they want to get to Battlemaster? Someone that's trying to make that final push.
So to those guys, Lord knows I was there with you. Hit it hard. Find the classes that you love playing. Find the classes that you can stunt on. These are the classes that you feel comfortable, that you feel like absolutely free playing, and you know that you can strut your stuff. One of my my belt brother's under belt goes by the name of Ducky Foxman. Wonderful little kid. Well, little kid, he's like 28. But guy sits there and he gets in his own head. He sits there like, I don't know what to play. I don't know what to get for my 8th or for my 9th. He's like, dude, just have fun. Your job, like, you have such a fun attitude when you play on this field, and you have such a like energy about you that it doesn't matter what you pick. You're going to find that fun part, and you're going to find your niche, and you're going to run through that thing like the Kool-Aid Man. You're going to run through that wall, break it clean down. Sure enough, he chose Bard, and he became probably one of the best breacher bards this kingdom has ever seen. And he got his Paragon. Sure enough, he's sitting there at 9. Just got it now last week. But for those 7 to 10s, just stay diligent. Be diligent. Learn and keep pushing. It's going to come. It's going to be one of those things that, you know, you just need to be at it with the idea that I need to learn things. I need to learn either new interactions, new strategies, new weapon kits, Lord knows when I was coming up on healer, I was not sold on the Sever Spirit tech for a long time. Then I come up to Rising Winds and I see that you guys are using it and how you guys use it, and I've sold it. Like, I'm sold. I love it. Sever Spirit is probably one of my favorite spells now, for that reason.
Sever Spirit is so good in so many scenarios. Just yeah, that tech's been around for a minute.
It was one of those things that down here we don't tend to have it run. A lot of it is just hinged on our dispel play, which it's sure, whatever. I get you. You're gonna rely on old reliable. Mm-hmm. You'd rather dispel them first before you kill them, because then there's the risk of them running away. Whatever. Sure, I get it. But Sever Spirit has some good utility. Solid spell. And you can kind of rattlesnake people with it. You can kind of wait and like kill them, and they're kind of waiting. Maybe they catch like a summon corpse, and right before that summon corpse goes off, Swift the Spirit Slayer or Sunday. You just hit them like that. Like it's one of those things that you can kind of be a little bit cheeky with it. Mm-hmm. I've seen some wizard players do the same thing with Dispel, where they'll wait until that team is ready to engage, and that big golem stacked player is ready to take in and ready to just start like tearing things up, and then immediately extension Dispel and just tear him up, and he can't do anything. Their momentum is already sold into it. They either have to kill the wizard or just eat the Dispel. It's just one of those things. But yeah, okay. That's what I would say about the 7 to 10s. You guys, I didn't like that position. It was rough because I am a ball of nerves normally.
You're preaching to the choir right here.
Just look for people who have experience in classes that maybe you don't. Lord knows I've had to consult plenty of Druid players, because that class, and Wizard also, is like reading a book in like Mandarin. It just does not come to me. I can't. I understand it. I can play Druid. I understand it to an extent. And then I look at that class and I'm like, what just happened? Wizard, same thing. I don't understand what happened. Something just doesn't click in my brain with it.
All right. So we're winding down here. We're almost through all the questions. How important do you think it is to be part of a belt line?
Your mileage may vary. I'll be honest. I've been blessed to have an amazing knight in Sir Cookie Monster, and a wonderful set of belt brothers in Sir Higier and Squire Wulfric and Squire Nini, who are a wonderful repository of information to draw upon. They are all incredible at their own areas. Squire Wulfric is incredible on great weapons. He's a great druid player, an amazing healer, and has probably more experience fighting than most of us all combined. He's a cross gamer, came over from Dagahir, so he knows line fighting better than most, if not all, players that I've had the pleasure of playing with in my time. Squire Nini, similar story, but he was laser focused on druid, and I think he might be probably one of the best druids I've ever had the pleasure of playing with. Because while he doesn't, or due to medical reasons, he can't play like the Avatar of Nature greedy druid, he knows it, and he can tell you and concoct whatever permutation of nonsense that you may need to make a line fight 100 times easier. He will make any siege or any fight that you are in easier to take, just because he has such a mastery and understanding of that class to make it seem pretty much like child's play. As for Higier, the man is just a monster. The guy knows any class you give him 15 minutes, he can regurgitate it, he can understand it, he learns it, and he can expand on it. The guy has got 4 Paragons, and he just knows the game. Has solid stick skill. It's always pushing me to do better, because it's kind of just joking with each other and ribbing each other. And Sir Cookie is just the backbone to that. Okay. And it's, mind you, I've been talking a lot on the ideas and the dynamics of my own belt line, but it's one of those things that it doesn't have to be confined to one. It can be your own park. It can be your own group of friends. But the idea ends up being is that these people are this is your rock. This is your advocacy group. These are the people who will stand up for you when you can't technically stand up for yourself, especially if some of them are members of peerage. And like, for instance, they will advocate for you. Now, mind you, for others, you don't need that. Some people are just naturally talented, or not necessarily even talented, but are so naturally inclined to excel that they don't need that that backbone or that support system. So it's one of those things that I would say it depends on you. It's not something I would say is demonstrably required to become a knight. But it's, it's one of those things that you need to seek out the people who are going to have your best interests at heart, and to make sure that you like them and enjoy playing with them, and that these are the people who are going to, these are the people who will have your back through thick and thin.
If somebody wants to be in a belt line, how do you recommend they go about finding a belt line to join?
It'll vary. It depends. So, in our situation, or at least for my own belt line, I've got 2 men-at-arms, Rain a few forks. Love you, buddy. Hope you're watching. And my other at-arms, Abeja. Love her too. Hi, Mel. But the thing that, especially for those who join, it can end up being of one of 2 ways. Rain and I were talking, and he had just started playing, maybe about 6 months into it. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I kind of want like a sense of tutelage. I want, someone who can teach me this game at a level that I probably wouldn't get out of my own park. Or better said, something that I wouldn't get unless I had access to this person whenever I needed to, which you can't always get out of your park. Right. So I told him, hey, if you want to, I could give you, or I can at-arms you, if you would like. You can leave if you would like, so long as I am serving your purposes as a squire, and I guess as your knight in future. That is what I want to do. I want to make sure that you are growing as a player, growing as, not necessarily growing as a person, but growing as a member of the community. And so long as I am doing that for you, I will be happy to have you. So it's, you can either go up to them and say, hey, I want to learn about this, or in this case, I want to learn about battle, because our belt line has 2, soon to be 3 battle knights. So it's a relatively young line. Sir Cookie is the progenitor of it. And both me, him, and Sir Higgier are all completely different styles of players. Like, Sir Higgier is extremely competent, and he can just kind of take any role. Sir Cookie Monster is the face of a team. He will sit there and lead from the front, and my job is to lead from the back. So it's one of those things that people have come up and asked to join, and that's a valid way to do it. If you think that these groups of people, and that means the entire belt line, not just like how my underbelts look at me, they also have to look at the other squires in that line as well as the Grand Knight. Say, hey, do these people serve my interests? Can I vibe with these people?
Yeah.
If so, then maybe I'll seek them out. Maybe they'll seek me out. I sought out Abeja because she was wonderful. She was extremely competent on field, solid stick skill, a love for service, and making sure that people were taken care of. And I asked her, I was like, hey, would you like to be my at-arms? She said yes, absolutely. So it can happen either or. But I will give, I guess, as a, not so much a warning, but something to preface, I suppose. When you are given an offer of a belt, whether it be squire, page, at-arms, etc., do not accept it immediately. It is something that you might want to think on, consider, and sit on. Because these people will be, you are signing yourself up to that entire line, and it is a decision that some people make somewhat rashly, and it's one of those things that I want players, especially those who are pursuing battle, to understand. It's like, hey, is this the kind of Battlemaster who suits my purpose? Is this, and by purpose I mean my growth as a player. Does this belt line do that for me? So it's one of those things that I want everyone watching to kind of keep in mind, that not every belt line is going to fit you, even though it might suit your purposes. Maybe it's not a good vibe, and it's much better for you to find people who are going to treat you well, for people who are going to suit what you want in the game, and for those to actually truly vibe with you in a way that only a belt line can. because it is ostensibly a family.
Similar question, but a little different. How important is it, do you think, to be part of a fighting company to become a Battlemaster?
Varies. A battle, like, so a fighting company is there as an extension of a support group.
Mm.
But they are there with the explicit intent of teaching you and making sure that your skills on the field are well taken care of, that you're being advocated for, and that you're able to kind of like show off. For the Ascendants, a lot of our stuff is that we want people to push harder and to be pushing consistently onto their next goals. I know it's a very generic term, but it's something that sometimes you just need to say. Hey, are you pushing for that next order? Go for it. What can I do to help you? What is that next play you want? Now, again, much like a belt line, not every person needs a fighting company. Not every person needs a belt line. If you are so inclined and so gifted that you can do this on your own, you can do it. Run it. Don't feel like you need to chain yourself, or I guess put yourself with a group of people that you may not even like just because the name that'll come before it, or I guess the group that you'll be considered with, has a level of prestige to it. Now, mind you, there are plenty of great fighting companies. I love my boys in the Torch. I love my my Justicar guys, the Yokai gang that I got to meet up at Rising Winds. Amazing people. Love all of them. But yeah, it should not be considered a prerequisite for knighthood in the sense that like it's something that you should be like, I need to get into one if I want to aspire for Battle Knight. You don't need it. Follow yourself, believe in your own abilities, and push. And if you need assistance, look for it. There's plenty of repositories of information. You yourself are literally probably one of the best repositories of information that this game has right now. This channel and this program, the ability of getting people from different walks of life in this game, different play styles, different understandings of the game, and putting them all together for someone to say, maybe I want to listen to the way that Manamut talks about Battle Knight. Or maybe I want to hear how Ash talks about it. Or Death Lily whenever or if ever he shows up. Or Haj. Or myself. Or any of the other gentlemen or young ladies that you'll see at any point in time in future. But the idea here is that seek knowledge. Seek always to make yourself better and push harder. And if you do that, you don't need a belt line. You don't need a fighting company. They're nice. I love the culture. I love the game of like, oh yeah, we have, our little rivalries with other people. Mm-hmm. But that's not necessary. You don't need it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. I like that answer. With pushing towards your goals, what is your next goal? I know you're getting knighted in August. What's next after that?
I'm hoping that once I'm out of office, because I get out of champion duties in August. Yeah. So after I get out of office, I'm going to take a little bit of a break from kingdom level duties for a little bit. I have considered, and I've been waiting to see what's going to happen with the Rules Revision Committee to see what comes out from SAPI. And I might rework a lot of my written guides and consolidate them into a book.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Because currently, my drafting guide is about 12 pages. My combat bard guide is about 2 pages each part. I have a healer's guide, which is about, I think, like 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. And I have, I think, maybe 3 or 4 other classes on both taking space, giving up space, as well as a guide to archery.
Okay.
Which, mind you, those are PowerPoints. Maybe consolidating all that into a book. I have also maybe considered trying to double qual on Flame, because I do have my Master Smith. So I'm sitting right there on like 8 roses and 7 lions. I'm like, you know what? I feel like I want to double qual before I get my Flame belt as well. Yep. We'll see. But the big thing right now is get to August, get through August with my sanity intact. And then from there, we'll see what the future holds. But the final thing I'll actually say is a goal of mine is actually to learn and be able to lead at all points in all positions of the game. So, like I said, it's been something that I've been talking about, at least throughout some of the other answers, is that I've taken up playing in armor. I've enjoyed the idea of playing from the front and leading from the front, because there are so many wonderful players who play this game who are incredible frontline fighters, who can lead teams from the front and kind of consolidate and really be that heart and soul of the team that people need. And I've been doing it, playing backline and midline for so long, then I feel like I need to do it if I really want to say that like I've truly conquered the concept of battlefield command. Because if I don't feel like I would ever be satisfied. So I feel like that's probably my next big battlefield goal.
All right. If you ever finish that book, let me know. We'll have you come back on to hype it out, and we can see about getting it published. Remind me
I
when
appreciate
I'm done. Yeah, like that sounds awesome. Final two questions, and then we'll turn you loose. I try to ask everybody this: is it okay for people to just come up and talk to you at events?
Absolutely. I got asked, it was right after court, just finished having a company meeting. I was sitting down in my cabin, having a good time, and I had two of my friends, from newer players coming from a park. They're asking us like, "Hey, could you go over some stuff with us over spear safety and I guess great weapon fighting?" It's like, "Oh, absolutely. Let's go outside." Got out there and it went from a small class on teaching how to make sure that you're not swinging like a crazy person with a pole to, actual battlefield tactics. So it went into what is the art of using the pole and what that pole is used for. And in that situation, it was more like teaching that, the pole is not the weapon of a person who is there to be there for for glory. They're there to play a support role. They're there to be a force multiplier for their team, and they're there to help, their team out. They're there to make sure that, that fight, that ensuing line fight is going to be way easier when the other dude with the pole is missing an arm, and the guy with the arm, or the guy with the flow, is properly put full of holes. It was one of the things we went through, and the class went from like 2 to 3 people to maybe like 10 to 11 folks, all learning how to play bodyguard afterward and learning on how to retreat space. So I love, as the duration of this interview has shown, I love my battlefield tactics. It's my bread and butter. It's what I feel like I contribute to this game as a whole, and I hope it's the legacy I leave, that you can come up to me and tell me just about anything and ask for help in just about anything in battlefield tactics or in the game in general. And if I can't do it, I sure as heck can find somebody who can. Because there's plenty of people who know more than I do, and there's definitely better people who can execute better than I do. All right. So the idea here is that, yeah, if you see me out in the field, if you see me at Spring War, if I, heaven forbid, or, well, heaven hopeful, that I can make it for Battle Cry or any other Rising Winds events, because I do want to start going up for those. Because I've got some really close friends up there.
If you make it up to Battle Cry or Bridge Wars or anything like that, let me know. We can hang out.
Absolutely.
This has been great. So, final question. Do you have any parting advice before we end the show?
I'm going to use a quote that's been attributed to a few people, but I'm going to kind of make it my own at this point. Pick a path and walk tall. That means if you wish to go into battle, stand tall and walk it. Don't be afraid that you may not be good enough. Don't be afraid thinking that your skills are inadequate. And right when you're there at the cusp and when you just get it, to quote Tyron Ash from a conversation we had at Battlecry last year, the only person that you should ever have to prove your mastery to is yourself. So the only person you have to look at and care whose opinion, once you have it, is the person in the mirror. Seek knowledge, keep working, and don't lose heart. This community is, I know some people tend to think that like the battle community just tends to be a bunch of flurbs and that people don't really genuinely care about the fighting that gets done and that there is a level of strategy that you can do. But we're out there, bud. If you want to, you can find me. I'll ask Callahan to put any of my information out if people want to get in contact with me. My DMs are normally open if I'm not at work or handling something. But if you want to talk tactics, if you want to talk shop, let's do it. Because there are plenty of ways to play this game tactically that I haven't come up with yet. And I want to learn from you. And that's the big thing I want to say. Seek that knowledge, friends. Keep pushing. Never stop. And in that moment where you think that, maybe, just maybe I might be at the end, go just a little bit further. Because it's that going just a little bit further out and pushing just a little bit more and trying to maybe get that next big understanding or that next big breakthrough is when you'll finally turn the corner and say, yeah, now I've got the skills. And once you feel like you've got it and you've shown it on the field, that's when the accolades come in. That's when people will start to respect you on the field, and they'll say, hey, yeah, that person's a monster on the field. That's the person I want. And sure enough, right after that, soon enough, you will get your Battlemaster. And from there, it's all about learning to give back. Teach. Make sure that you are fostering that next generation in whatever way you can. Work with your other Battlemasters. Try to, be that guiding light. Whether that means that you're running games, if you're reaving games, or you're teaching, give back. Because that is not only the path to knighthood, because it is the genuine understanding and being the pillar of the community, but it's also the way for you to refine your craft. So I'd like to say thank you so much for having me on, and yeah, stay hungry, friends.
Well, I want to thank you for being on, everybody. This has been Battlemaster Cid of Neverwinter. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been so fun to have somebody from so far away come on and talk to everybody out there. If you have any questions for Cid, please leave them down in the comments. I'm sure he'll be lurking for a while just to see what shenaniganry pops up. If you want more awesome battle gaming content, please subscribe so that you can get notifications about more stuff coming out. Keep an eye out because we've got a lot of good stuff coming down the pipe. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.